Joining me as he does every week is the Australian's foreign editor, Greg Sheridan. Greg, great to see you. Before we kick off, let's just recap a little of what Donald Trump said. He's holding these impromptu news conferences regularly now, as is his wont. Let's have a listen.
Is there any chance that Canada or China could also get out of the tariffs after you struck a deal with Mexico?
Well, nobody's out with Mexico. We had a great talk with Mexico, and we had President Sheinbaum is a woman. I like her very much. We've had good relationships, but we have to stop fentanyl from coming in, whether I like somebody or not, and we have to stop the illegal aliens from coming in. I think we've lost 200,000 people on average a year for many years, much higher than the 100,000. Could be even closer to 300,000.
So tariffs announced, tariffs paused, friend now with the Mexican leader. It's a roller coaster, hard to keep track.
It sure is, Kieran. So this is classic Trump. Every Trump deal is preceded by a great deal of bluster. So you best not to panic in the bluster phase. At the same time, you can't just write the bluster off and say it's meaningless, because you could easily end up with a 25% tariff. Now, it doesn't look like Trump has got a huge amount out of these deals. On the other hand, Mexico and Canada are going to be much more sedulous about controlling their borders, controlling fentanyl coming into the United States, and putting up obstacles to illegal immigrants. I mean, Mexico is a bit like Indonesia with us. You know, if it wants to, it can wave illegal immigrants through. If it wants to, it can stop them. I think Trump has achieved something out of all this, but at the same time, he's put a tremendous question mark over the stability of relations with the United States. But this is the Trump way, you know. Don't panic, but work hard to give him some sort of concession.
Yeah, so some analysts suggest that it's upturning the rules-based order, as it's called. Is it just Trump enforcing the rules-based order, that he wants others to chip in, that he wants others to carry a bit more of the load? This is him in his negotiation and his typical bargaining phase.
So, Kieran, that's a terrifically complex and difficult question, and my views have evolved on this, and I'm quite heretical about it, really. I don't think the rules-based order any longer really applies very much. That's not to say it's not in our interest to promote what's left of it. Big powers throughout history seek not only to dominate the international system, but in a sense to become the international system. The rules-based order we got after World War II, that was really just a polite way of saying American power. And because America is the most benign great power we've ever seen, it set up a system of institutions and rules and so on, which meant that it didn't use its power against smaller nations, and smaller nations got a fair playing field. Yeah. However, it's been the case now for decades that nations like China simply don't play by the rules in trade. Most nations which obstruct trade don't impose barriers, they impose non-tariff barriers. You simply can't get your products into those countries. Now, the United States is still the most powerful nation in the world by a very long distance, but it's not so powerful that it can ignore other countries not playing by the rules. Even in the area of security, none of America's allies, most especially including Australia, remotely pull their weight in security. We all depend entirely on the United States to provide our security, especially Australia. So Trump, the way he speaks to allies, it's impolite and it's not what we're accustomed to from Americans, but there is a measure of justice in it. Now, the question is, can the rest of the international system, you know, keep hold of the good bits of the rules-based order? A lot of Asian nations are more relaxed with Trump because they expect nations to pursue their own interests. And sometimes there was a bit of hypocrisy in the old American way of talking about the rules-based order. So I think the bottom line of all that is that the system is in flux and we're all going to have to create a new system.
Sure is. And if for what it's worth, Asian leaders are, some are. If I was in Taiwan, I wouldn't be that relaxed, though, just quietly, because you sort of get the sense that Trump, being as transactional as he is, I'm not sure he'd have that status quo view of, say, Republican or Democrat presidents years gone by, Greg, that they would fight to defend Taiwan.
That's absolutely right, Kieran, and that's a very big problem and a very big question mark over Trump. However, even here, there are two sides of this. The Chinese are scared of Trump. They take Trump very, very seriously. Anyone who deals with power takes Trump seriously. Now, Trump has been less declaratory in his commitment to Taiwanese security, but Trump won't let the Chinese humiliate him. And if they took military action against Taiwan, they would be humiliating Trump. So that's a huge question mark in their mind. Now, Biden said he would defend Trump, but Biden projected such massive weakness in all directions. Biden was just so weak on everything, could barely string a sentence together, took action on nothing, was defunding the military, wasn't building the Navy. The Navy was falling way, way, way behind. So in a sense, Taiwan got good declarations out of Biden, but did anyone really take them seriously? Now, I think, Kieran, it's a nice point, and I don't really have an answer to it. Were the Chinese more likely to take action under a weak Biden who said he'd defend Taiwan, or are they more likely to take action under a strong Trump who they don't know for sure won't defend Taiwan? Neither situation is ideal, but I'm not sure what the answer to that question is.
Yeah, it's a fair point. And just finally, we've got about a minute or so left. I want to get your thoughts on Deputy Prime Minister Miles heading to Washington on Thursday. He'll be expediting the meeting, the face-to-face talks, which is a good thing, isn't it, with the Defence Secretary, the incoming Defence Secretary Hegseth?
It absolutely is. So, you know, Penny Wong went to a Quad meeting, and we'd always been saying for the last 2 years, the Albanese government, in servile deference to China, that the Quad had no security application. Marco Rubio said it's a security organisation, so she signed up in a minute. Yep, it's a security organisation. We have no defence of our own. We rely entirely on the Americans. It's quite right that Richard Marles should go and pay court to the Americans and do everything he can to remain in their good books, especially as we have no defence of our own. And whatever reservations they might have had about Pete Hegseth or whatever, he is one of the most powerful people in the world now in terms of Australia's destiny. So you want to keep in his good books as far as you can. The Albanese government's diplomacy towards Trump so far has been perfectly orthodox, quite sensible, and, you know, they deserve some commendation for that.
Yeah, and those face-to-face meetings are so important to build the rapport and all of that. They're humans after all. Greg, thank you. Appreciate it. We'll see you next week.